When you think of one of the most controversial NES titles ever released, mostly controversial in terms of migraine-inducing difficulty and detailed theatrical anime-style cutscenes, odds are one of Tecmo's most memorable, raved-about series would possibly spring to mind. First introduced as a beat-em-up arcade game in 1988, a la Double Dragon by Technos, Ninja Gaiden, aka Ninja Ryukenden and Shadow Warriors in Japan and Europe respectively, was later modified for and ported to the NES, this time as an action platformer featuring all new gameplay features and an all-new storyline, complete with the aforementioned challenging difficulty setting, and intriguing, plot-enriched in-game cutscenes. First, let's dive into the original Ninja Gaiden for the NES, released in 1989. The story involves a young determined Shadow Crusader named Ryu Hayabusa, equipped with his clan's sacred dragon sword, who sets out for the old US of A to meet with a colleague of his deceased dad, Ken Hayabusa, famed archaeologist Walter Smith. Indiana Jones much? According to that last letter his dad left behind, Hayabusa must accomplish aforementioned task while revealing the mystery behind his sudden murder. Throughout the course of his long, arduous journey, the Dragon Ninja runs into a super hot CIA agent, thus mixing himself up in the most inevitable and unexpected twist and turn of a plot involving the government, namely the aforementioned CIA. Mystical demon statues, which will mean the end of all humankind and existence as we know it if joined together during a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence, and a mysterious demonic figure. All this and more to be revealed later on. If I were you, I'd just keep playing. And I dare you. I quintuple quail dare you. In each stage, you get treated to an assortment of enemies to hack and slash your way throughout. Also, you can jump and cling to walls back and forth between them, as well as jump your way upward on them. The only exception being is that if you cling onto a ladder, which is suitable for climbing horizontally, doing so will make Hayabusa ascend or descend to more sections. In terms of power-ups, you get two kinds of ninpo point slabs, one in blue and another in orange, which are worth 5 and 10 points respectively. Collecting enough of these will benefit you to make use of your extraordinary ninja abilities, in the style of the Castlevania series, speaking of which, if you get hit, you end up gravitating a few paces back. The weapons that you collect and use include, but aren't limited to, normal shurikens, which Hayabusa simply throws directly at an enemy, which costs 3 ninpo points. Windmill shurikens, which Hayabusa also throws, that travels back and forth in the style of a boomerang, and you can even jump over and duck under as many times as possible to keep it in full view until it returns to you, and it's worth 5 ninpo points. The Deadly Cyclone Slash, which is a powerful aerial attack. It can also be used to obliterate your bosses faster. Use down and B in midair to hinder yourself from using it, but if you do so, it costs you 5 ninpo points. And finally, there's two types of fire wheels. Type A throws a plethora of ring-shaped flames that rotate in sync, traveling diagonally up and forward from the user, which costs you 5 ninpo points. And the Type B fire wheels serve as a temporary invincibility device, which is good for several seconds. Now that we've got the basic gameplay out of the way, at the end of each stage you face a boss, whose patterns are very easy to map out, but can get very challenging as you progress throughout the game. And speaking of challenge, that's our next topic here. As the game progresses, there's always danger at every turn, and this is where the unprecedented hair-raising difficulty kicks in. There's respawning enemies. Think of every damn NES game out there that contains respawning enemies. You know, you defeat them once, and they pop up unexpectedly yet again. Not to mention cheap and unexpected deaths due to enemies randomly occupying a commonplace hazard area, mostly near pits. And what's even worse, while in mid-air, Hayabusa can't even alter his direction, if rather slightly, like say, Capcom's Mega Man series, or hell, even Shatterhand for that matter. Despite these habitual conflicts, I still believe Ninja Gaiden, even to this day no less, is a radical and well-balanced game. Exhibit B, Ninja Gaiden 2: The Dark Sword of Chaos, released a year later. Set not too long after its predecessor, a new terror has surfaced within the realm of darkness. Who and or what new terror might this be, you might ask? Following the defeat of the previous game's antagonist, namely the aforementioned mysterious demonic figure, aka Jakio, the Emperor of Darkness, Ashtar, has hatched a scheme for total world domination via the Gate of Darkness. Once open, demonic armies start to inhabit our realm, thus, you guessed it, bringing about the extinction of all humankind as we know it. And as before, our old dragon ninja must put an end to all this horseshit no matter what the cost. Gameplay-wise, it's the same as its predecessor, the usual hack and slash action, except with some new features thrown into the mix. Whenever you cling onto a wall, you can easily climb up and down, not just on ladders like the last game. In terms of the sub-weapon variety, you now have a diagonal downward fire spark ninpart at your disposal. The Type B invincibility fire wheel can now be used at will, mainly depending on how much ninpo points the player has remaining. And the cherry on the best friendly sundae ever made, Hayabusa can now guide up to 2 of his backup shadow clones in his every feat, following your every movement, and even assisting you in the tightest situations. Naruto Uzumaki, eat your goddamn heart out. What's even more stunning, in an awesome way, although you start off with 40 ninpo points, you can upgrade your maximum point count by acquiring special scrolls throughout each stage. Despite not mentioning this in the last entry, why not indicate it here? Anyways, my best bet is to save up as much ninpo points as possible for every end boss. As far as the challenge, despite being close to that of its predecessor, Tecmo flat out cranked up the difficulty level more notches than one could possibly count. Aside from the usual enemies and hazards, the backgrounds and environmental textures are the tip of the damn iceberg and must be taken into steadfast consideration. Take Act 2 Scene 2 for example, where the direction of the wind current changes over time, in which case you have to further your jumping capabilities depending on where you're facing. Or the next part after, in which the only way to see the entire stage is to pay close attention to the lightning's reflection on every obstacle. Final exhibit, Ninja Gaiden 3, The Ancient Ship of Doom. Released, yep, you guessed it, another year later.